Hello, this is Tom, aka Gedeon, here for Tabletop Tap Room, and today we are doing yet another of the Rediscovering 1E. This time I want to look at artifacts, relics, and demons. And nice little package of tool sets here in the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons DMG. I got my trusty little PDF all queued up here. Now, starting here, this is page 155 within the magic list. And so artifacts are really handled a little bit differently than any other magic item in the game. So this is table 3E, and it starts with notes regarding artifacts and relics. Each artifact and relic is a singular thing of potent powers and possibly strange side effects as well. Regardless of how any of these items come into your campaign, only one of each may exist. As each is placed by you or found by the player characters, you must draw a line through its listing on the table to indicate it can no longer be discovered randomly. If the dice indicate an item no longer available, you may substitute a clue as to its whereabouts or simply ignore the results so that no magic item is found. Well, full stop here. I don't agree. I do not think these artifacts and relics, these are basically the One Ring of Power from Lord of the Rings. And I don't think this is something that should be found randomly. Now, yes, I know in The Hobbit, it seemed like a random chance thing that Bilbo found it. It was, author fiat that Bilbo found that. I just don't feel like artifacts should just let the dice dictate that we're getting an artifact. And this point here where it says you may substitute a clue as to its whereabouts. Absolutely. You need to be planning the clues, planning for this artifact in your campaign. That's how I feel. Now, I am sure there are some of you out there that you are a fly by the seat of the pants, make it up as you go along, and you could probably just we're getting Baba Yaga's hut. Here we go. Woohoo! And off you go. That is not me. I feel like I need the plan. I need to write clues. I need to write some background and some fluff, and I need to think about how this thing is going to fit into my campaign and what is the end game of this. Is it just that it's a bauble for the players to have, or is it that there's going to be story going on surrounding this? Because there certainly is story surrounding the One Ring. It's practically apocalyptic that if the dread evil Lord Sauron gets a hold of the ring, it's all over for the world, more or less. So I don't agree on random tables introducing artifact level One Ring of Sauron, the One Ring to rule them all into my campaign. Next paragraph. Because of the unique nature of each artifact and relic, their powers are only partially described. You, the Dungeon Master, must at least decide what the major powers of each item are to be. This prevents players from gaining any knowledge of these items, even if they happen to own or read a copy of this volume, and it also makes each artifact and relic distinct from campaign to campaign. Yes, absolutely. The tables after this are, tables for minor abilities, major abilities, minor side effects, major bad side effects. And when Bilbo finds the One Ring, he puts it on and discovers, it makes me invisible. But he doesn't know what the side effects are, that it's going to give him unnaturally long life, that it's going to make him obsessed, the whole, my precious, it's just that constant obsession over the ring. So he doesn't know what the side effects are. And this is the brilliance of Gaiax. He's delivering that experience to the players in your game through what he's set up here for these artifacts, because you don't know what the powers and abilities are. You don't know what the side effects are going to be of these items, and they're going to have some, and some of them are not so nice. Like I think on one of the minor malevolent effects is that you break out in acne. I mean, that's just terrible.
What?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a on one of the tables. I have to scroll down here. It's the other thing is that these are not random tables. Um, so table one, minor benign powers, major benign powers, minor malevolent. Number A on table 3 here, acne on the possessor's face. Yeah. Which to a 12-year-old, 13-year-old hitting puberty, you'd probably be like, oh my God, that's horrible. You know, somebody in his 50s now would be like, yeah, whatever, my character can suffer through it. I did.
You gotta hit everybody else up. Hey, you got any proactive?
Yeah. So, yeah. I want to research a potion of acne clearing for my game. So, yeah, I mean, and there's other things on here that are more significant, like the user's sex change, touch of the possessor kills green plants. I think it'd take acne over the sex change or killing green. Every plant I touch dies. I mean, that just sounds bad. So, yeah. But you also you need to not plan for the artifact, but you also need to plan. You need to choose these effects and these powers, and you cannot dice them, because you saw that list. It was A through Z, and then it started with AA, BB. However long the list was. So you can't really dice for that. Those are not random tables. Those are written that way because Gygax wanted you to think about the powers and choose what was going to fit your campaign, your play style, your group of players, even, and their characters. So definitely, I feel like this is something that must be planned. Now, the next paragraph here says, and those artifacts and relics that you bring in should be carefully guarded by location and warding devices and monsters. That recovery of any one is an undertaking of such magnitude that only very powerful characters working in concert after lengthy attempts have any chance whatsoever of obtaining one. Naturally, each artifact and relic might have a body of rumors, tales, and other lore. Discovery of such information should not be by chance. Minor clues may be placed, but an extensive oral or written information must be sought out and obtained only after considerable expenditure of time and money, if at all. And this is what plays out in Lord of the Rings. I mean, Gandalf has suspicions, but he doesn't know. So he's got to travel all the way to Gondor. And he goes to Gondor, he does the research on the One Ring. And, he's checking out the story of Isildur and what happened with the One Ring. And then he's got to come all the way back to the Shire. And while he's at, and he grabs the envelope, it's got the ring in it, throws it in the fire, and he grabs it with tongs. And, and they see the fire letters on there, and he's able to confirm, yes, this is indeed the One Ring. And so it was, to get that information, it was a major thing. And I believe that is what Gygax is thinking here with this paragraph, that just finding out what these things do, you're not going to know what they do. And he's attempting to deliver that experience to the players. You don't know what the side effects are going to be. You have to find them out through trial and error and just going along. And you, to get information on it, has to be like a mini quest practically to go find out this information. And, there's going to be costs associated with it. And of course, isn't that the thing though? How do we, the characters end up collecting so much gold? How do we drain, how do we part them from their gold? Well, you're going to have to pay for research. You're going to have to pay to get access to library. You're going to have to pay for, time, money. These things are on the table. So definitely, I love this paragraph here. Please note so right here, please note that you need not use any or all of the artifacts or relics here. Any or all. I would use like 1, maybe 2 in a campaign. You don't want to no, you don't. I don't think you want a campaign overrun with artifacts. We are not Oprah or Monty Hall going, you get an artifact and you get a 1 ring and you get an artifact. And it's just no. I think the campaign would totally become unwieldy. So if you prefer, you may rename these in your campaign to suit particular mythos, or you may devise your own entirely. But any creation by you must be done so as to maintain the item in balance with the game as a whole. And this goes for assignment of powers with respect to any of these items too. A super weapon is certain to blast the whole campaign to smithereens. That is the danger here, and that's why I'm like, 1, maybe 2. Unless it is given proper limitations, and also a nemesis creature in some cases. What he means by that, and this is something I was like, absolutely, because the 1 ring, what was the nemesis of the 1 ring? Well, Sauron wanted the 1 ring. And I mean, and Sauron is like next level threat. And Bilbo never directly interacts with Sauron, which is a good thing. There is some interaction with his lieutenants, the Nazgul, which are totally scary. Within the setting, the Nazgul scare people, and rightly they should. And then there's yet another nemesis. Gollum, Smeagol, is a nemesis for the ring. Now he's kind of very low level. So there's actually a lot of interaction between Bilbo and Gollum. So I think you've got godlike, angelic level of power, almost godlike in Sauron. You've got his undead lieutenants, which are certainly very, very scary. Super dangerous. Then you got Gollum. He's a low-level nemesis. And I think for a lot of these items, you can actually set that up. And we'll talk about that in a minute when we look at some of the items. So the next paragraph is at the end of the descriptions of artifacts and relics. There are 5 tables. Yeah. So we've already kind of looked at some of those tables. Again, you can't roll on those tables. Those are lettered, not numbered. So there's no just rolling the dice and seeing what you get. You need to choose. I wholly endorse that. This next section here is about some rules laying down how to handle if the player says to an NPC hireling, here, you try this out so we can see what the bad effects are. And how the NPC, look, if the 1 ring turns up in their campaign, I'm taking it. I'm not giving it to the NPCs. In fact, not only am I taking it, I might even be looking at some of the other player characters as, you might have to go. Some PvP action, which I totally do not. I am not into infighting between the player characters, but I'm like, I want the 1 ring. If it shows up in my campaign, I want it. I'm claiming it. My character is going to try to get it. That's just how we're going to roll. I'm not sharing it. You get something that level, I want it for my character. I don't care there's bad effects. I don't care that we might have to quest to destroy it and throw it in Mount Doom. Do not care. I want it. That's just cool. And I think I must have read The Hobbit 15 times as a kid before I got out of high school. There's no using NPCs. So these rules to me are totally unnecessary. They may be for your players. I just don't think so. Now, so let's jump down to here. All artifacts and relics are of such power they are virtually impervious to harm, magical or physical. So some predate the gods and others were formed by the gods, and typically each can only be destroyed by a single means, i.e. the 1 ring. Take it to Mount Doom, cast it into the fires from which it was made. That's what Gygax is thinking here. He's thinking 1 ring because, let's face it, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Tolkien's works greatly impacted D&D in its infancy. And so, again, he's thinking 1 ring here. and there's only one means. And so there's like a list of different means, and you're going to have to pick one. And this is how you can destroy this thing. And many of these items tend to make their possessor reclusive, secretive, arrogant, and greedy. These effects are best to handle through manipulation of the player by means of powers, non-player characters, etc. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't like the idea of trying to manipulate the player character, because what you're trying to do is to manipulate the player. I actually think that a lot of the people I have role-played with, that if I pulled them aside and said, look, you've got the one ring and this is how it's affecting your character, I think a lot of these players would play their character that way just because. I have a lot of faith in people. I think if you pull them aside and talk to them privately, say, hey, this is how this thing is affecting you. See if you can play your character that way. I think people will go along with it. I don't like the idea of manipulation. But then again, as a parent, what did I do to my kids? You get what you want when I get what I want. So I don't know. So my hypocrisy knows no bounds. I did manipulate my kids, but I just, the idea of manipulating another adult sounds wrong to me. I don't know.
I don't know if manipulating is the right word.
It might be the word choice here that I'm reacting to.
Manipulating doesn't usually have a good,
doesn't have a good connotation.
No, it doesn't.
I don't like the word. I don't like people who are manipulators.
Right. Manipulating your kids is more like
parenting.
It's parenting. It's giving them a choice and padding it so that they probably will make the right choice. But in the end, it's still their choice. So.
Yeah. Well, I always phrased it as you get what you want when I get what I want. And there were certain things I wanted. And if I got those, then you can do what you like. And that was behavior oriented. And so that was just how I played. I would hold the hands up. I says, look, what's it going to be? We're either going to do it my way or we're going to do it my way. Which one do you want?
That's why I used to say to my kids, you can have a bath now or you can have a bath 5 minutes from now. Your choice. Either way, you're getting a bath without me having to shove that in their face. Give them some sense of choice.
So yeah, and it used to be when Rebecca was a toddler, I could threaten her like, look, you can either eat or you can go take a nap. And one day she called me on that. She goes, I'll go take a nap. And I was like, well, I got to follow through. So I put her in there and she just sat and looked at me like, I don't have to sleep if I don't want to, and you can't make me. And I was like, well, all right, I will not make this the consequence ever again because I just got called and I wasn't holding the cards in my hand to force the child to do what I want. So so I don't know if there's other means. I'm just not sure what they are for manipulating the player character in game. Maybe there's just if you don't behave a certain way, this is what happens to your character. Their skin turns green and everybody sees that in setting and reacts, maybe. But if you do what the artifact wants you to do because the artifact's trying to influence you, then maybe you don't get the bad consequence. Maybe that's a way of doing it. But I just think like pull the player aside and say, this is what's going on. Are you able to role play the character in this way? I think most players will say, hell yeah, I can do that. I think that somebody's going to love having story share that I've got the one ring. Na 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 na. I think any player would love that. I would. So finally, we have whatever befalls the possessor of the artifact or the effects he or she causes by use of the prime powers or even major powers, it is permanent. So if, like we just saw in there, the acne, that's permanent. It's these things happen, permanent. Sex change, permanent. Age 30 years, permanent. So a lot of these things are, it's not while you're using it, if these things afflict your character, they become permanent. So he's really enforcing that there are consequences for using artifact relic level things. Now, talking about some of these specific things, I absolutely think you got to have a nemesis. You got to have a Dark Lord, somebody bad who wants to take the artifact and use it for some purpose bad. Because why would you want to destroy an artifact? Why would you want to? Well, because it's too dangerous to leave it out in the world. And if the nemesis gets it, it could be really bad. For example, Wand of Orcus. Who's the nemesis? Orcus. All right. One of the demon princes of the 666 levels of the Abyss. That would be bad for him to get his wand back. It would be good for us to destroy it. Iron Hand of Vecna. That would be a case where I'm putting 2 artifacts in the campaign, because if you're going to have Vecna, you might as well have the eye and the hand of Vecna. So definitely going to have both of those, and the obvious nemesis there is Vecna. I mean, clearly. And other nemesis, well, maybe somebody who used to possess the hand of Vecna and wants it back. That it got chopped from him and he lost it, and and so that nemesis, he's much more lower level than Vecna himself, and so he becomes somebody that the player characters are going to end up interacting with. Acts of the Dwarvish Lords. It could be that some demigod hero of Dwarvish legend and renown is coming back to the prime material plane because he wants to. There's some great battle going on one of the other outer planes, and he needs to reclaim this. And so he's coming to reclaim the Acts of the Dwarvish Lords and the character, or any dwarf who witnesses the players with this. And let's say it's a human who found the Acts of the Dwarvish Lords. Well, the dwarves, it's not going to sit well with the dwarves for a human to have their cultural legendary artifact. So like almost every dwarf in the game is going to become a nemesis to the player characters, cause trouble. If they're not powerful enough to take it from the player, they're going to go get more dwarves. You're always going to have more dwarves coming after you. So yeah, there's a lot of scope for a lot of these things. Baba Yaga's hut. If Baba Yaga the witch exists and is living in the campaign, she's an obvious nemesis, but maybe she's a figure of legend and she's not alive anymore. Well, somebody who worships Baba Yaga, another witch, another more powerful witch, so it's almost like Wizard of Oz and Wicked Witch of the West wants the ruby slippers. And she hears Baba Yaga's hut's been found. Well, I'm a witch like Baba Yaga, and, I got to have that. I got to have those ruby slippers, Baba Yaga's hut. So yeah, or maybe hags, the monster manual, the hag, they worship Baba Yaga. And so if they worship Baba Yaga, they don't want some human or some elf to have Baba Yaga's hut. So they're a more low-level nemesis. And so they're coming after you. They're plotting and planning to come after you to get this artifact from you. So certainly, Codex of the Infinite Planes, some celestial from out beyond, from the outer planes, coming for the Codex. And if they get it, they plan to do something, and it's going to be really bad. They're going to do they're going to be a Sauron. They're coming for the Codex, and they're going to be a Sauron. So maybe it might be a good idea to save the prime material plane by destroying the Codex. And to do this, it might require a trip to one of the outer planes, to the Abyss, or to the Nine Hells, or one of those. So that's roughly how I would handle it. Just looking at some of these. Oh, he was mystical organ. So you got this massive pipe organ. You can't move that. But even if you could, maybe you could. Who's the nemesis? Well, maybe one of the world's religions is like, we want the pipe organ to set it up in our cathedral, our temple. So while the players might have found it, here's this good organization that they might have ties with. Maybe the cleric is part of that pantheon. Maybe the paladin is part of that pantheon. Here comes this organization, and they want it, and they're not going to take no for an answer, and you need to cough it up, and that may not sit well with the players, and that's going to lead to some friction. That's going to lead to some role play possibilities for sure. So certainly I like this idea of Heward's mystical organ. Look how powerful that is. All those powers, 7 of the minor powers. 7 of the major, 3 of the minor effects. There's a lot going on here. So this is a major one, almost too powerful, I think, for a campaign, but the fact that it's immobile limits it. So that could be okay, but definitely. Oh, and one last thing here. Let me just find it. The Cup and Talisman of Al Akbar. There's a major world religion, and during the 70s, you didn't hear much about it. You started hearing more about this major world religion in the 80s with the Iranian hostage crisis and the Shiite fundamentalists. And they have a phrase that in English is translated, God is great. And so that is great, Al Akbar. This Al Akbar sounds like that in not Islam, in Arabic. So this is one where I would just change the name. Let's just stay away from something that smacks of a major world religion. We just don't want to offend anybody. So I would actually just change that to something like Aladdin. It's got the same feel, the same cachet as Al Akbar, something along those lines. I would, before I ever use this, and this looks like a good one, only 4 minor powers and 1 minor effect. So this looks like, something that would be pretty good. It's got some other powers in it here, and wow, 75,000 gold pieces is pretty valuable. But so that's Artifacts and Relics. Gygax is attempting to deliver to you a One Ring experience in game, and I think that's mad cool. But I'm not going to allow for an artifact to be chosen randomly in my campaign. I'm going to very carefully pick it. I'm going to very carefully pick its powers and its side effects. I'm going to write clues and copy and background for it that the players may never learn. But I know it, and that helps me place it and move it within my campaign. So here we are with Appendix D, random generation of creatures from the lower planes. You mean demons? But not really, not necessarily. These are creatures from the abyss, from Tardis, Hades, Gehenna, Hell, 9 hells. And you've got here a stat block that gives you some suggestion. The movement could be this much, this much, this much. So you, they've got your hit dice could be 7 to 10. Roll D4 plus 6. And so they cover the stats, but then the appearance of the demon. This is the challenge, and they provide all of these tables for you to roll to get the demon. Now, several years ago, I was playing BX, and I wanted to have a demon. BX doesn't have demons, but I remembered that there was these tables in the DMG. So I pulled the DMG out, went right to these tables, and I worked up a 7 hit dice demon, because 7 hit dice was powerful, but I didn't want it to be so overpowering for my BX campaign, but it would be powerful. And this was a demon that was being worshipped by the were-rat, who was causing trouble in the campaign. It was a major antagonist. And so this was the demon that was worshipped by the were-rat, and then was also to be summoned by this were-rat. And so as I rolled through here, if I got results, that I did not like for my rat demon. I just changed it, but it was good to have the table. So I went through and I rolled it, and I really came up with what I felt like what was going to work for this rat demon Rikus. You know, like, I mean, and there's just table after table here for tail, body odor, the torso, 2 different tables for the torso, nose, mouth, eyes, eye color, overall visage, ears, head adornment, and head. Scrolling down to the next page, skin, predominant color, the back. Like I remember I rolled something like maned or normal or something, and I was like, no, I want spikes and spines coming out of his back. So I combined maned and spikes. You know, I was like, yeah, he's got a lot of hair on his back, but he also has spikes coming out of his. So I thought, yeah, that's cool. That'll work for my rat demon. And no wings. You know, we taloned claws on his fingers, and his legs. You know, so I just used this, rolled up his strength to get to determine his to hit and his to damage. I think I added in a special attack and a special defense, and boom, there I had my demon. And it literally took me 5 minutes, but I was also working from an idea. You could literally develop demons like this in a probably, I bet you could get it down, just roll fast, record the results to less than 3 minutes, and you can develop a demon. This is a great toolbox that Gygax has provided to us. And, you know, it came in handy for another game, not Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm so happy that I had this and I remembered it. And because I felt like Rikus really made that game good. He felt like his being summoned and the players trying to stop it really was kind of cool. And he had a special mission that he was doing. So I had a lot of fun with Rikus. So there we have it. Toolboxes from the Dungeon Master's Guide, relics and artifacts, tokens trying to give you and your players here's the One Ring experience. And that's how the rules for that are written. And I think you should embrace them. I would not allow for random artifacts that you just, well, we rolled it on the table, so I got to let it. No. I'm in control. As Professor Dungeon Master says, put the master in Dungeon Master. I'm in control of that. I'm going to be writing the clues. I'm going to be writing and working this thing into my campaign. I'm already going to know the end game for that item. That the Nemesis has big plans for it. The players need to oppose that. It will definitely have consequences all across the campaign. So definitely, but it's cool because who doesn't want to find the One Ring? Right? And then demons, those tables are fantastic. You like this, you're doing up unique demons that feel demonic is what it is. They're unique, they feel demonic, they're completely in line with everything else we've seen in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So they work for me. So this is Tom for Tabletop Taproom. I hope you've enjoyed this Rediscovering 1E. These are fantastic tools. You won't be using these rules every single day, but they are a tool in your toolbox. Remember that you have them. Totally embrace them. I think they're worth embracing. They add a lot of fun to the campaign. So thank you for watching the video. Thanks to my subscribers. You guys are great. And if you've not subscribed, please do hit the like, subscribe, and bell icon. Help me build the channel. But until then, keep on gaming.